mistakes in this world, but actually we are already, it's the first layer of Maya, is that we are actually making a mistake. It's called Brahm, of actually who we are. So the first thing that's causing us to fall into all kinds of misfortunate situations is that we're mistaking who we actually are and what's actually important. Like, and who are we actually? We're part and parcel of God. We're a servant of God, and we're spiritual. We have nothing to do with this body. We have nothing to do with this material world. We have nothing to do with our relationships with the material world or even the other living entities in it, other than we're all servants of God, and that really this is the only thing worth considering. You know, we chant, Lord Chaitanya, he chants, and I have also included this before my Gayatri. He chants, Naham Vipro, Nacha Narapatir, Napi Vaishyo, Na Shudro, Naham Varni, Nacha Grihapatir, No Vanishta Yatir Va, Kintu Prodyan, Nikila Paramananda, Purnamritabtir, Gopi Bhartu, Padakamalayo, Dasa Das Anudas. And obviously what's that mean is I'm not any of the four Varnas. I have no dharmic responsibilities in Varna and Ashram. I have, but what he's saying is indeed this ever-expanding supreme bliss, ocean of nectar of Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis, serviced his feet to be the servant of the servant of the servant. That's what I'm. That's what I am. That's what really we should focus on. So anything that focuses on that is properly situated. Anything that's not focusing on that, these are they might be progressive in your spiritual life, but they're ultimately still an illusion. It's still making the mistake of life. So obviously, we can't all be perfect, and so we're all in a progressive stage here. But when you practice devotion in life long enough, Krishna will ask you to, hey, step it up. Get to the next level. Don't get stuck on dharma and adharma. Don't get stuck on lower teachings, karma yoga, jnana yoga, even ashtanga meditative yoga. Really focus on the highest thing. Understand who you are and what's really important. And then Bhagavatam is giving, I liked Paramananda, Param Brahma Prabhu was saying, he gave really nice how Bhagavad Gita is like the law book, and Srimad Bhagavatam is like all kinds of case studies, and you can see case by case how the law was applied in these past circumstances. And it's very nice, actually. It's a great analogy. So I'm going to use it with his permission, or without his permission. But I'm sure he's freely giving. So anyhow, let's see what they do in Srimad Bhagavatam here. So, okay, we're actually on 45. I wrote 46. So the last verse was said, due to the termination of the monarchical regimes and the plundering of the people's wealth by rogues and thieves, there will be great social disruptions, people will be killed and injured, and animals and women will be stolen. And for all these sins, we shall be responsible. So when we neglect our duties, and then all kinds of unfortunate things happen because we've neglected our duties, we actually become responsible. And so Shamika Rishi is actually, he's saying that, because we're Brahmins, and we were supposed to, be forbearing and forgiving and all these things, but instead we turned around and decapitated the ruler of the world by killing, cursing him to die. We're going to be responsible for all the misfortune that's coming. We're going to have to, take on these reactions, And so you see this actually, the Brahmin class is not really existent, not respected, not well treated at all. The priestly intelligentsia class, because of this action. And we can see in our life too, when we neglect our duties, it comes back to mostly bite us. All of a sudden our life is in shambles. Like, oh man, if I would have done my duty, it wouldn't be coming back to me like this. But what have I done instead? I pursued something else, and I acted whimsically, and now this is going to come, and also you'll bring infamy on oneself. You bring infamy. That's why Arjuna, Krishna was recommending, don't neglect your duty. For a person who's known honor, infamy is worse than death. It's like the worst thing in the world when you've been, you've had some respect in life, and you were doing your duty as a respectable person, and then to turn around and become infamous, unnecessarily. I mean, sometimes for a higher cause, a devotee will even take infamy. They have no problem taking infamy. But who's determining the higher cause? Shastra, Guru, and Sadhu. And then a devotee will take all kinds of infamy, and for that, they'll be labeled a criminal. They'll be labeled like, for instance, Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya's devotee, Lord Shiva, coming, and he became like the greatest antithesis to bhakti, out there. But he did it as a service. He did it as a service to the Lord, because that's what the Lord wanted. And you see this even Lord Shiva, who is Shankar. Lord Shiva, he dresses like a mendicant. He smears ashes, and he's always associating with tamasic people, the demons and all these things. Why? Because he's most merciful, and he's at the adhikar where he can actually handle their craziness and actually help uplift them. He swallows poison, all these things. He's at the adhikar. He can do these things, but we cannot. So he can take a, you could say, infamous role, but he actually, as you see, Lord Shiva is one of the most famous, he's most as well. So, but generally speaking, we don't want to bring infamy on ourselves, especially for not doing our duty properly. So we see this has happened here now, and all kinds of chaos is about to ensue. Before we go any further, let's chant our Mangal Charana. Madhav, if you want.
Sadvaitang Savadhutang Parijana Sahitang Krishna Chaitanya Devang Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Rasari Gaur and Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Saraswati Devi Puchayane, Nirvishesha Shunyavari Pastatya Shutarine.
So, let's read on. Tadarya Dharma I'll first offer our obeisances to those prayers mean. I'm offering our obeisances to our gurus, Diksha, Shiksha, and all of the Vaishnavas, past, present, and future. These are our life mercy, sources of mercy, and they'll connect us all the way back from master to student, all the way back to the Supreme Lord. So, Tadarya Dharma Praviliyate Nirnang Varnashrama Yutastrayimaya Tatortha Kama Biniveshitatmanam Shunam Kapinam Iva Varna Sankaraha. Tada, at that time, Arya, progressive civilization, Dharma, engagement, Praviliyate, is systematically vanquished, Nirnam, of humankind, Varna, caste, Ashram, orders of society, Achara Yuta, composed in a good manner, Traimaya, in terms of the Vedic conjunction, Tata, thereafter, Artha, economic development, Kama Biniveshita, fully absorbed in sense gratification, Atmanam, of men, Shunam, like dogs, Kapinam, like monkeys, Eva, thus, Varna Shankar, unwanted population. At that time, the people in general will fall systematically from the path of a progressive civilization in respect to the qualitative engagements of the castes and the orders of society and the Vedic injunctions. Thus, they will be more attracted to economic development for sense gratification, and as a result, there will be an unwanted population on the level of dogs and monkeys. It is foretold, Prabhupada is saying, herein that the absence of a monarchical regime, the general mass of people will be an unwanted population like dogs and monkeys. As the monkeys are too sexually inclined and dogs are shameless in sexual intercourse, the general mass of population born of illegitimate connection will systematically go astray from the Vedic way of good manners and qualitative engagements in the castes and orders of life. It's all sex-based, actually. If you see how people go mad, it's all based off sex. They all, they get so caught up in this little bit of sense gratification that all of their good manners and all of their proper engagements in the Vedic way of life, they'll want to discard them like anything. But these are like monkeys and dogs. And I've been a monkey and a dog throughout my life, and it's a very unfortunate phase of my life. And you see, no one gets a good result like this. So, but this is the norm. This is the norm here in Kali Yuga. The Vedic way of life is the progressive march of the civilization of the Aryans. The Aryans are progressive in Vedic civilization. The Vedic civilization's destination is to go back to Godhead, back home, where there is no birth, no death, no old age, and no disease. The Vedas direct everyone not to remain in the darkness of the material world, but to go towards the light of the spiritual kingdom, far beyond the material sky. The qualitative caste system and the orders of life are scientifically planned by the Lord and His representatives, the great rishis. The perfect way of life gives all sorts of instruction in things, both material and spiritual. The Vedic way of life does not allow any man to be like monkeys and dogs. A degraded civilization of sense gratification and economic development is the byproduct of a godless or kingless government of the people, by the people and for the people. That's a reference to America. Yes. This is a byproduct, America and its degradation and only focusing on making money and enjoying sense gratification through eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, is the byproduct of a godless or kingless government of the people. by the people and for the people. The people should not therefore begrudge the poor administrations they themselves elect. So we should not sit here, and this is what people do, they, criticizing all different administrations, but we're the ones electing them. And it's not even, and we're so foolish, we don't even see that, it's all kind of being chosen for us. We have two options, option poop and option, hard stool or soft stool. You choose your stool, there's no good option. But anyhow, this is our unfortunate situation, and we're so greedy and foolish that we don't, as long as one promises the thing we want, then we don't care if they'll, send the world to hell, and they do that, Like right now, Donald Trump is going wild, crashing the economy and doing things, but he's going to take care of our transgender problems, so some people, many people are like that, and before that, Joe Biden was doing all kinds of crazy welfare programs, and the people of this world were the drug cartels were going crazy, and people are just mooching off the government like crazy, and but people are like, yeah, but he's gonna maybe get my student loan thing down, and so they're people don't care, they're selfish, they don't care what's the qualification. This person, he was clearly senile or something, and then they're like, I don't care, he said my student loans are down, but anyway, and then Donald Trump is very oh my gosh, he says all kinds of really lewd, he's very abrasive. So anyhow, but we don't really have any good options. The option, hard stool or soft stool, you pick your stool, and the devotees, we're not so inclined to participate so heavily in this way of life, unless we have a way to really spiritualize the situation, but there's not much here. So anyhow, we have to understand also that the Varnashram system actually is going to, if you properly follow it, it's going to lead to the Vedic way of life, and it's going to take you away. But you can't force your way through the Varnashram system. For instance, brahmacharya should be observed. And brahmacharya, the main lesson of brahmacharya is celibacy. And if one cannot learn to find celibacy, and be able to exist properly in celibacy, then they're not going to be qualified to go to the next ashrams that follow brahmacharya, whether it's sannyas or whether it's grihastha. And so what will happen instead is that one goes into grihamedi, and grihamedi is compared to a dark well in which one cannot get out lifetime after lifetime. And so we have to understand that we can't, better, let's say we're debaucherous and we're like monkeys and dogs. Better, maybe we get married so we're not completely sinful. But still, unless we learn the values of the ashram system and actually apply them, there's no chance of actually any type of Vedic way of life. And then, what's to speak of anything to do with going back to Godhead? It's just not even going to be available. So, we have to first try to come to the platform of being humans and not like dogs and monkeys. But, and the reason there are so many dogs and monkeys is because there are many living entities who belong in those bodies. And, a lot of them might be coming from the human side of things, because you act like a dog or a monkey, you have a perfect body waiting for you. And then, and it just keeps recycling people. The souls will go into the perfect body for them, depending on, what's on their conscissness. Dharmapalo Narapati Satu Samrad Brihatstravaha Sakshan Mahabhagavato Rajarshir Hayamedhaya Kshutrit Shrama Yutodino Naivasmach Chapamarhati. Dharmapala, the protector of religion. Narapati, the king. Saha, he, too, but. Samrat, emperor. Brihat, highly. Shrava, celebrated. Sakshat, directly. Maha Bhagavata, the first class devotee of the Lord. Rajarishi, saint amongst the royal order. Haya Medhaya, great performer of horse sacrifices. Kshut, hunger. Trit, thirst. Shrama yuta, tired and fatigued. Dina, stricken. Na, never. Eva, thus. Asmat, bias. Shapam, curse. Arhati, deserves. The Emperor Parikshit is a pious king. He is highly celebrated and is a first-class devotee of the personality of Godhead. He is a saint amongst royalty, and he has performed many horse sacrifices. When such a king is tired and fatigued, being stricken with hunger and thirst, he does not at all deserve to be cursed. So, we have to understand the situation. Sometimes we might look at a situation and draw a conclusion, like, oh, Emperor Parikshit, he garlanded a sage with a snake. He's bad. But there's usually a lot more going on underneath the surface. And so we have to be sensitive to what's actually going on in somebody's life. Why are they resorting to all these things? What are the cause of the actions? So, after explaining the general codes relating to the royal relating to the royal position and asserting that the king can do no wrong and therefore is never to be condemned, the sage Shamika wanted to say something about Emperor Parikshit specifically. The specific qualification of Maharaj Parikshit is summarized herein. The king, even calculated as a king only, was most celebrated as a ruler who administered the religious principles of the royal order. In the Shastras, the duties of all castes and orders of society are prescribed. All the qualities of a Kshatriya mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 1843 were present in the person of the emperor. He was also a great devotee of the Lord and a self-realized soul. Cursing such a king when he was tired and fatigued with hunger and thirst was not at all proper. Shamika Rishi thus admitted from all sides that Maharaj Parikshit was cursed most unjustly. Although all the Brahmins were aloof from the incident, still for the childish action of a Brahmin boy, the whole world's situation was changed. Thus Rishi Shamika, a Brahmin, took responsibility for all deterioration of the good orders of the world. So, and also, like, the father will take responsibility for the son too. Even also the, one's teachers or guru or something, they'll take responsibility for the disciples who are foolish. And actually, you give the karma to your superiors. Like a bad son gives bad karma to the family. A bad disciple gives bad reactions to the guru. Prabhupada was falling ill, and all his disciples were quite concerned, and he said, "This is due to my disciples not following. Because they're not following, I have to take these things." I was hearing, people have done horrible things, horrible because they were like monkeys and dogs, Prabhupada said confidentially to Narayan Maharaj, "My disciples are like monkeys, they're practically like monkeys." And that, maybe I don't know if I should have said it loud, but he said, actually, but they were, they were doing crazy things, like on the altars, they're doing abominable activities, these things like that, especially they were so young and new and at that time. Not all, but many, many who were unable to follow. So, we're not realizing the, just like when my son, when I'm sitting there trying to sleep and he comes and he sticks his fingers up my nose or rips at my lips or tries to poke my eyes out, even though it hurts me, he's not realizing, like he's hurting me. But so similarly, when a disciple or a junior, they act foolishly, they don't realize it actually impacts our seniors. And so I've done many, many foolish things in my life. And now I'm at a phase of my life where I lament those things, and I want to make these things right, and be a proper disciple, be a proper son, be a proper junior to my seniors. I like this. So, but maybe you have to make all kinds of mistakes first, like I did, like Shringi did, and before these things are realized. Apapeshu svabhrityeshu balena pakpabudhina papang kritang tad bhagavan sarvatmak shantumarhati. Apapeshu, unto one who is completely free from all sins. Swabhrityeshu, unto one who is subordinate and deserves to be protected. Balena, by a child. Apakva, who is immature. Buddhina, by intelligence. Papam, sinful act. Kritam, has been done. Tat Bhagavan, therefore the personality of Godhead. Sarvatma, who is all-pervading. Shantum, just to pardon. Arhati, deserve. Then the Rishi prayed to the all-pervading personality of Godhead to pardon his immature boy, who had no intelligence and who committed the great sin of cursing a person who was completely free from all sins, who was subordinate and who deserved to be protected. Purport: everyone is responsible for his own action, either pious or sinful. Rishi Shamika could foresee that his son had committed a great sin by cursing Maharaj Parikshit, who deserved to be protected by the Brahmins, for he was a pious ruler and completely free from all sins because of his being a first-class devotee of the Lord. When an offense is done unto the devotee of the Lord, it is very difficult to overcome the reaction. The Brahmins, being the head of the social orders, are meant to give protection to their subordinates and not to curse them. There are occasions when a Brahmin may furiously curse a subordinate Kshatriya or Vaishya, etc. But in the case of Maharaj Parikshit, there were no grounds, as already explained. The foolish boy had done it out of sheer vanity in being a Brahmin's son, and thus he became liable to be punished by the law of God. The Lord never forgives a person who condemns his pure devotee. Therefore, by cursing a king, the foolish Shringi had committed not only a sin, but also the greatest offense. Therefore the Rishi could foresee that the Supreme Personality of Godhead could save his boy from his sinful act. He therefore directly prayed for pardon from the Supreme Lord, who alone can undo a thing which is impossible to change. The appeal was made in the name of a foolish boy who had developed no intelligence at all. A question may be raised herein, that since it was the desire of the Lord that Parikshit Maharaj be put into that awkward position so that he might be delivered from material existence, then why was a Brahmin's son made responsible for this offensive act? The answer is that the offensive act was performed by a child only so that he could be excused very easily, and thus the prayer of the father was accepted. But if the question is raised why the Brahmin community as a whole was made responsible for allowing Kali into the world affairs, the answer is given in the Varaha Purana, that the demons who acted inimically toward the personality of Godhead, but were not killed by the Lord, were allowed to take birth in the families of Brahmins, to take advantage of the age of Kali. The all-merciful Lord gave them a chance to have their births in the families of pious Brahmins, so that they could progress towards salvation. But the demons, instead of utilizing the good opportunity, misused the Brahminical culture, due to being puffed up by vanity and becoming Brahmins. The typical example is the son of Shamika Rishi, and all the foolish sons of Brahmins are warned hereby not to become as foolish as Shringi, and be always on guard against the demoniac qualities which they had in their previous births. The foolish boy was of course excused by the Lord, but others, who may not have a father like Shamika Rishi, will be put into great difficulty if they misuse the advantages obtained by birth in a Brahmin family. So Prabhupada's giving a couple things here. How Brahmins, why were they made totally responsible? How is that right? And everything is, Shamik Rishi is going to the Lord to appeal, to help his son, because his son made a really great mistake. And so he knows only the Lord can rectify this. He offended a devotee, and he is, now I don't know if he could ever be forgiven for such an act. And only the Lord can help him from here. So we have to, be properly situated, not make these crazy offenses like Shringi. But at the same time, we also have to understand, well, why does everything happen the way it does, Why would the Lord impel Shringi to do this? Why would the Lord? Because the Lord's controlling everything. I mean, ultimately the Lord has a plan, and he has a plan for Maharaj Parikshit. The plan was to bring Srimad Bhagavatam out. So even here, all kinds of crazy things happen here over the years. And many times I'm wondering, why now, Lord? Why are you doing this now? Why is this the arrangement here now? And at the end of it, I see why. Oh, this helped me in this way, that way, and the other thing. It doesn't mean that the persons who acted crazily didn't get some reaction. They got some crazy reactions, actually, I've seen. But that was, it was all perfectly planned out by the Lord, so everyone learns exactly what they need to learn, including, everyone. So the whole world is going to learn a valuable lesson, and the beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam is going to be born from this act. But we should be very cautious to learn not to act whimsically, not to act out of guidance from our seniors, to not become proud of our position or to think ourselves more qualified than we are and acting whimsically and foolishly, not to be like a dog or a monkey, just completely taken over by a sex life, and therefore all kinds of bad offenses come to one. This is all these things can be learned from here. So this is, and we also should know that this, through this, the ultimate, remember the ultimate misidentification that we have is we're thinking we're this body. We're thinking that we are something that we are not. We're this body and mind complex, and sex is the ultimate act that gratifies the body and then the mind. All of these things. So if we become focused on this is like the ultimate illusion. This is the ultimate illusion that this is our... we have no idea who we are if this is the urge. So, by studying the Shastras, hearing from senior advanced devotees, we can remember, we can be woken up, like, oh yeah, I'm not this, but I keep falling into this idea that this is who I am and this is what's really important, but these are not the important considerations of life, especially when you associate with that energy. For men it's women, and for women it's men. When you associate in this way, you'll forget exactly who you are. You'll forget exactly what's important, and all of a sudden all kinds of other considerations will come about. So anyway, you guys are likely going into the same ashram that I'm participating in. So, you'll learn, hopefully not that hard. Maybe you can learn better than I had to learn. And you can take proper channels of advice rather than having to learn so many things the hard way through pratyaksha. But, since everyone is born like a monkey and a dog in Kali Yuga, you may also have to learn by getting beaten and all these things like monkeys and dogs. So like I have, so we'll see what Krishna arranges, how intelligent you are. Tiraskrita vipralabdha Shaptak shipta hatapi
Sutta chitta hatapi.
Nasya tat pratikurvanti.
Nasya tat pratikurvanti.
Tadbhakta prabhavopihi.
Bhakta prabhavopihi.
Tirakrita,
Tirakrita.
being defamed.
Being defamed.
Vipralabdha,
Vipralabdha.
being cheated.
Being cheated.
Shapta,
Shapta.
being cursed.
Being cursed.
Kshipta,
Shipta.
disturbed by negligence.
Disturbed by negligence.
Hata,
Hata.
or even being killed.
Or even being killed.
Api, also. Na, never. Asya,
Asya.
for all these acts.
For all these
Tat,
acts.
them. Pratikurvanti,
Pratikurvanti.
counteract. Tat, the lords. Bhakta, devotees. Prabhava, powerful. Api, although, he is certainly. The devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. Rishi Shamika also knew that the Lord does not forgive a person who has committed an offense at the feet of a devotee. The Lord can only give direction to take shelter of the devotee. He thought within himself that if Maharaj Parikshit would counteract the curse, counter-curse the boy, he might be saved. But he knew also that a pure devotee is callous about worldly advantages or reverses. As such, the devotees are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc. As far as such things are concerned in personal affairs, the devotees do not care for them. But in the case of their being performed against the Lord and his devotees, then the devotees take very strong action. It was a personal affair, and therefore Shamika Rishi knew that the king would not take counteraction. Thus there was no alternative than to place an appeal to the Lord for the immature boy. So when a normal person has wrong done to them, they will immediately, seek revenge, or, you did this, and then the karma can be worked out. But when you offend a devotee, the devotee, he tolerates and he just accepts, and he has no desire to, let me return. You've wronged me, let me now return wrong to you. The devotee will not do like that. The devotee will just accept and just, but then it becomes an even bigger problem for the person because of the devotee's nature. Because now the person has no way out. If the person returns fire with fire, then they can get their reaction. But because the devotee won't return the fire, then that person will just fall to ruin until, it's happened many times, Devananda Pandit, Gopal Chapala, multiple in Chaitanya Charitam. Srivas Thakur was abused multiple times by devotees, and they fell into the most unfortunate of circumstances. In my life, I've seen, just due to my immaturity, there were certain devotees that I neglected, certain devotees that I improperly behaved around, and acted puffed up, or so many stupid things I've done in my younger years. And even now I still have to watch, if we have a senior guest or something like that, if I'm not attentive and careful, you can make some mistake. And they can, even if they don't take offense, the Lord will take offense and he will not like. So, it's the worst mistake you can do is offending a devotee, because they won't give you the reaction back, and they won't let it be resolved immediately. Not out of intention, but because they're so humble, they have no desire. I deserve this. For whatever reason, the Lord has arranged this in my life. It's not, they don't take, it's not, it's my fault. I've taken this. So, it is not, so really all that can be done from, say, the father's standpoint, or someone who cares about that person, is to place an appeal to the Lord for the immature boy. It is not that only the Brahmins are powerful enough to award curses or blessings upon the subordinates. The devotee of the Lord, even though he may not be a Brahmin, is more powerful than a Brahmin. But a powerful devotee never misuses the power for personal benefit. Whatever power the devotee may have is always utilized in service towards the Lord and his devotees only. So let's see here. We can probably finish if we just if we hurry. Iti putra kritagena
Iti putra kritagena
sanu tapto mahamuni
tapto mahamuni
swayang prakrito ragya
prakrito ragya
naivaghang tada chintaya.
bhagam tada chintaya
Iti, thus, putra, son, krita, done by, aghena, by the sin, saha, he, the Muni, anutapta, regretting, mahamuni, the sage, swayam, personally, viprakrita, being so insulted, ragya, by the king, na, not, eva, certainly, agham, the sin, tat, that, achintaya, thought of it. The sage thus regretted the sin committed by his own son. He did not take the insult paid by the king very seriously. The whole incident is now cleared up. Maharaj Parikshit's garlanding the sage with a dead snake was not at all a very serious offense, but Shringi's cursing the king was a serious offense. The serious offense was committed by a foolish child only. Therefore he deserved to be pardoned by the Supreme Lord, although it was not possible to get free from the sinful reaction. So this is also what's done by a child isn't taken nearly as seriously. So what's done in childhood, that's one thing, but what's done as an adult, especially the more mature you become as an adult and as a devotee, the reactions will become harder and harder and harder. So we have to be careful. Maharaj Parikshit also did not mind the curse offered to him by a foolish Brahmin. On the contrary, he took full advantage of the awkward situation, and by the great will of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit achieved the highest perfection of life through the grace of Srila Shukadev Goswami. Actually, it was the desire of the Lord, and Maharaj Parikshit, Rishi Shamika, and his son Shringi were all instrumental in fulfilling the desire of the Lord. So none of them were put into difficulty, because everything was done in relation with the Supreme Person. So ultimately, this is part of the Lord's Leela. And even though it looks like, Shringi's in big trouble or something, everything was going to be resolved. The Lord is going to take care of each appropriately. And actually, you see, everyone gets delivered, especially Maharaj Parikshit. He gets the most delivered by, getting taught the Srimad Bhagavatam. And even though it appears he dies from this world, and that's the worst type of thing, that's the illusion. That we think that we're a product of this world and that the things of this world are important. But actually, the most important thing in one's life is like what we're doing right now. It's like these practices to extricating ourselves from the material world and going home to where we really belong, and that's the spiritual abode. But it takes some maturity to really realize that and apply that, and not to get lost in the pull of this material world, the pull of, anything. It could be family life, career life, wealth, so many things can pull. So I have the good fortune of this year, the Lord has ruined me materially for His pleasure, and and even though it stings my false ego, I'm seeing the value that, I'm disgusted with the material endeavors. I'm disgusted with the material endeavors that were responsible for me becoming ruined, you could say. And so, that's a great gift, even though it's hard for me to always accept the gift. But I realize more than I did before how important this aspect of life is, and that this is really my duty, and that any other thing that I wanted to focus on other than this spiritual advancement and the spiritual service to my seniors that I'm doing, it's all useless. And actually it gives a worse, even material result than if you just stay put. If I would have just stayed put and just did my spiritual duty and didn't have these other considerations, I would be much better off spiritually and materially. but I had to learn some things the hard way. Let's do this last verse. Prayasha sadavo loke
Prayasha sadavo loke
parer dvandveshu yojita
Dvandveshu yojita
navyathanti nahrishyanti
Navyatanti nahishyanti
yata atma gunashrayaha.
Atma gunashaya
Prayasha, generally, sadhava, saints. Loke, in this world. Parai, by others. Dvandveshu, in duality. Yojita, being engaged. Na, never. Vyathanti, distressed. Na, nor.Hrishyanti, takes pleasure. Yata, because. Atma, self. Aguna ashrayaha, transcendental. Generally, the transcendentalists, even though engaged by others in the dualities of the material world, are not distressed, nor do they take pleasure in worldly things, for they are transcendentally engaged. So generally, the transcendentalists, even though engaged by others in the dualities of the material world, are not distressed, nor do they take pleasure in these things, for they are transcendentally engaged. The transcendentalists are the empiric philosophers, the mystics and the devotees of the Lord. Empiric philosophers aim at the perfection of merging into the being of the Absolute. Mystics aim at perceiving the all-pervading Supersoul. And the devotees of the Lord are engaged in the transcendental loving service to the personality of Godhead. Since Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are different phases of the same transcendence, all these transcendentalists are beyond the three modes of material nature. Material distresses and happinesses are products of the three modes, and therefore the causes of such material distress and happiness have nothing to do with the transcendentalists. The king was a devotee, and the rishi was a mystic. Therefore, both of them were unattached to the accidental incident created by the Supreme Will. The playful child was an instrument in fulfilling the Lord's will. So at the end of the day, no matter all of the ups and downs and crazy twists and turns in the material world, and even though we're, you could say, being engaged by others in this material world, the devotee, the transcendentalist, is not distressed. What really can distress a transcendentalist is if they insult the Lord, or insult the Lord's devotee, insult the Guru, insult the Vaishnavas. This is lamentable. But other than this, lost money, lost, anything of this world, this is no issue, actually. Even losing one's life, like Maharaj Parikshit, it's not an issue, actually. It's actually going to give him the greatest benediction. So I'm also... I'm waiting for my, I've lost all of my wealth practically this year, and I'm waiting for the spiritual benediction in losing everything material. I'm hoping that comes that way. I'm seeing already some value, but I have a feeling when I go to India I'll have a lot of clarity, and a next new phase will come for me. Okay, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Any questions? You guys?
So it's just interesting that Shringi, he made such a great offense, but he also is talking about how this is all arranged by the Lord. So how do I reconcile okay, how he's gonna take on a sinful reaction, but it's the Lord's will.
Yeah. Well, the fun thing about Shringi that he has going for him, he's only a child. So actually, the Lord's reaction is not going to be so severe for him. Everything's the will of the Lord, even when somebody blasphemes the devotee. It doesn't mean that, the Lord now just excuse everything for that. No, because also the reactions that everyone gets is the proper will of the Lord to teach everybody what they need to learn. So everything's happening by the Lord's will. The Lord is also, his fearful forms are the demons, Was it Guru Maharaj was giving a class on that yesterday? I think I was overhearing.
2 days.
What's that?
2 days before, yeah.
2 days.
Shukracharya. No, but it's about Vardhan Guru's Shastra.
I don't know. Actually, I was hearing a class. Maybe that was it. Maybe that was not it. But the class was the Lord has his peaceful forms and he has his non-peaceful forms. And his non-peaceful forms are the demons. And the demons do all kinds of crazy things, but they are also they're also the Lord. So it doesn't mean, oh, everything's the Lord, let me just associate with everything, it's all equal. No, it's not.
That's like impersonalism.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, so for our own, marking our own advancement and proper behavior, we should be very, very respectful, and we should be very attentive in our services to the Lord. Namely, even chanting the holy name, our service in the temple, our service to the Vaishnavas. And we should always try to enhance and increase these things. But, due to nature's arrangements, Maya's arrangements, we'll be tested whether we really, what we really want to focus on. And so we may lose proper respect for any of these things, the holy name, the Vaishnavas, our Archana Seva, all these things. And if we do like that, especially to the Vaishnavas, it's just like Krishna's filtering energy. Maya is Krishna's filtering energy. All right, who really wants to come to me? Like we put, say maybe a water filter on the, and the filter gets rid of all the nasty things. So there are certain souls who are clean and ready to come to Krishna. So Krishna will put the filtering energy, and that's Maya. Maya is the filter. So the rest of the devotee is doing good, and all of a sudden a nice pretty lady might come by. And the devotee is, and if they're not ready to go through and filter, then they go over there and they stay, there's not enough purity yet. So then they go and in the filter, or they don't make it through the filter. So this is like Maya. Maya is like the filter. And the pure jiva, he can come through if he just lets go of his anarthas. We all have these anarthas, and we can go through the filter if we get rid of them. But unfortunately for us, we don't want to go through the filter. Or maybe we do want to go through the filter, then we'll be more fortunate. But there's just some anarthas, it's how to get rid of, how to do. And this comes by the mercy of our gurus, the mercy of the Vaishnavas. They can help uplift us. But even the mercy of the Shastra as well, you could see how the case studies of how did they get through their anarthas. And so this whole Srimad Bhagavatam, you're going to see. Yes?
I feel like as you progress, it's like, as you're trying to get through your anarthas, more and more tests come, and they seemingly get more difficult.
Yeah, the filter.
More intense, so it's a purification process, but at the same time, sometimes it's so difficult and it's hard to see. So obviously I know the answer is sadhu sangha, and the guru, will help you. But still, sometimes it's still hard for us. So what do we do? Because I know myself, all the time I'm wallowing in well, if this was like this and I was like that, things would be, if I had this, then it wouldn't be so difficult, or, so what does one do?
So,
as they get more and more difficult?
Back to the filter analogy, as they're, the filters, they have different layers, and then the more internal the layer is, the more finer, and nothing is supposed to be able to get through, nothing impure is supposed to be able to get through. So you just keep trying to go through the filter and understand that if you understand that these are the tests of Maya, and you're reading this Shastra, you're understanding the transcendental goal, and you're associating and serving transcendental personalities, and you're engaged by them, and you're not even yourself acting, you're only acting under their guidance, then what's to worry? Krishna says crossing over this material world is like no more than a calf's hoof print. But, I just learned this verse this week. Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mayam. Is it? Yeah. No. Mama. What is it? Mame Valye. Mame Valye Prapadyante Mayam Etam Tarantite. So, but this Maya, or you could say this filter, is Daivi Hiesha Gunamai. This modes of material nature is actually transcendental. It's like a transcendental filter, and it's meant to do exactly what it's doing. Mama Maya Duratyaya. And this my energy, Duratya, is incredibly difficult to overcome. Actually impossible. Impossible to overcome. Mame Valye Prapadyante, but to certainly those who surrender unto me, Mayam Etam Tarantite, to this illusory energy, they will cross over. So that's the only thing. You have to surrender to Krishna. So that's your answer. You surrender to Krishna. That means you surrender to Krishna's representatives. That means you don't make your life like, I was hearing what Nishtha actually is. Nishtha is, and that's just like preliminary, before you even
Do anything till you get
yeah, you don't get any real bhakti until Nishtha is there. But until you're 100% wholly and solely surrendered to Guru, meaning every step you take is for Guru, then you're you don't achieve Nishtha. So if you don't get to that stage, if you have any sense of being the doer, any sense that you have your own plans and your own ideas and your own desires and whims and hopes and dreams, and they're not at all connected with pleasure to Vaishnavas and pleasure to Krishna, then you just, if you don't realize that's the goal and that you need to get there, then you'll just keep, you'll never overcome this. You'll never go through the filter. You'll never belong through the filter, because those heavy desires are too fine of sediments. You can't carry them through. You can't get any transcendental destination with all these things. So I would say don't.
This is what they refer to when they say Guru Bhakti.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose. Yeah, I mean that's.
I haven't seen that.
There's a
Just keep saying Guru Bhakti.
Yeah, I mean.
It's Guru Nishtha.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same. There's a verse, Krishna says. What does he say? Bayam dvitiya binivesha tasyad. Ishad apitasya viparya yosmriti. Tanmaya yato buddha abhajitam. Bhaktyayaka yesham gurudeva tatma. And it's explaining why we're in this unfortunate situation and why fear is arising in our life, because we're misunderstanding what's really important, and we're not remembering who we really are, and we're focusing. But and this is all due to the Lord's Maya. But therefore the intelligent, though, those who know, who've been told, they've revealed these things. Bhakti Aika Yesham Guru Deva Tatma, with one pointed attention unto the bhakti, unto that Supreme Lord, through the Guru, and seeing Guru, that's the representative of the Lord. And we have to understand what the Guru looks like. And it may not just be our Diksha Guru all the time. Guru may also take a form. I mean, Prabhu yesterday was talking about how Dattatreya is seeing the 24 Gurus. But if we always understand, that devotion, the Guru is our actually Lord and soul. And then if we can devote ourselves wholly and solely to the pure representative of the Lord, who that representative is the Guru in our life, then we can go through. Then we can have that, Guru Bhakti, and then, we're not carrying our own heavy material desires, and we're fine enough to go through the filter. But as long as those material desires are so strong in your life, and that desire to serve the Lord and His devotees, dasa das anudas, isn't really arisen, and you cannot go through, and it's duratyaya. It actually difficult, is the translation, but it's actually impossible. You get no chance. So this is when we learn these things, we should at least have a desire. I want to be an instrument for my guru. I want to be an instrument for the Lord. And then if that's a pure desire, that can go through. So let's see what the Lord does. But if you don't even realize that that's what you should be your desire, then you're finished. And you'll do all your whimsical things, and then you won't get anything. You'll just get suffering and struggle that this material world naturally breeds. Dukalayama shashvatam, this temporary miserable place, and then you just keep getting. So, when you make Guru your whole and soul focus, you'll be successful. When you make the Lord, who is the Guru, is the representative of, then you'll be successful. Otherwise, you're gonna struggle. Yeah, that's just what it is. Right, Abhiram? Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.